Hi, I'm Kelvin Goh. I'm the consultant physiotherapist for the Tan Chin Tuan Foundation. This is the instructor segment for Project Solid Goal. What we're going to do in this section is to teach and try to articulate all the different compensations that the seniors have when they're doing the exercises and how to instruct them on doing them correctly. We're going to start with the warm-ups first. I'm just going to take a seat and we'll go through the warm-up exercises. The first exercise in the warm-up is the neck flexion and the neck extension. Usually with flexion, the seniors have no problems. It's mostly with the extensions that they feel pain in the back of the neck. If they do not let them hold it for a very long time, and also make sure they don't lean back and extend too much. If they do feel pain, just extend lightly where it's pain-free and then back down the hole. The next exercise we're going to do is the side stretch. They will lean down to the side and feel the stretch on the side of the neck. It's very important that the shoulders are relaxed as they're doing the exercise. Make sure they're not shrugging up when they're tight. If you wish to, you can use your hand to put it over your head to help you pull down to get a bit more stretch. Make sure they do not over pull. If they do, they will start leaning. So as long as their body is straight and they're pulling, they're getting a very good stretch. Next exercise they'll be doing is the neck rotation. When they're doing the neck rotation, not a lot of compensations that I see. Main thing I see is when they turn to the right, they tend to lift their shoulders up if they're tight. So just make sure that their shoulders are down and relaxed as they're doing the turn to get a full rotation. Next exercise is the shoulder shrugs. Main thing I see with this is to make sure that they are breathing throughout the exercise. Most of them will tend to hold their breath when they're lifting up and breathe out when they're coming down. You want them to breathe as naturally as you can throughout the motion. Next exercise we're going to do are the retractions. I'll move to the side so you can see my arm. When they're doing the retractions, what you want them to do is to feel like the elbow is leading back into the pool. You want them to work the muscles in the back and also stretch the muscles in the front. Make sure that they're not shrugging when they're lifting up. What I usually tell them is to make sure that their elbows are not coming up when they're pulling back. You want to make them feel like they're going straight back and down to pull. And it should be right there. Next exercise we're going to do is forward bending. Some patients who are seniors who have pain in the lower back, make sure that they're not having pain when they're actually bending forward. When they're going down, you want to make them feel like they're relaxed in the head and neck and shoulder and feel like they're just resting into the ground and stretching out. If they complain of pain or leg symptoms as they're doing the exercise, then this is one exercise that they should avoid. Next exercise we're going to do is the trunk rotation. If you have a chair, you can use it by pushing your right hand behind and pulling with the left and turning. Most seniors may not be able to reach the back of the chair. If that is so, you can have them move their feet towards the side they're turning to make it a bit easier to turn. What you're basically doing is you're stretching the mid-back out to give them a bit of rotation as they're doing the exercise. Now, the last exercise is just basic breathing. They're going to lift their arms up, and with most exercises, they'll usually tell them to blow out and come down. But in this exercise, it's a bit different, and I'll explain. As they lift up, you have them breathe in and have them blow out while keeping their arms up. When they keep their arms up, they will let their ribs actually drop and actually get a firm stretch on the lats as they're doing it, so that their lungs can expand a bit wider. One more time, breathe in, blow up, and reach up towards the ceiling. And that's it for the warm-up section of the instructor segment. This is the instructor segment for the stick exercises. I will be going through all the different compensations that the seniors will use when they're actually doing the exercise. For the stick exercises, it's pretty simple. The main thing you need to look out for is to make sure that their shoulders don't shrug up. That will cause a lot of tightness in the shoulder, and in the long run, they'll have less and less motion. So let's go through the exercises. The first one we have is just stick flexion, where you're just going up and down. Very basic exercise. They don't have to go very high. Once you see their shoulders coming up or if the stick starts to twist or turn in the air and it's not straight, then you'll know that one side is tighter than the other. So make sure that they're balanced. When they do the lift, the stick should be in the same line and not dropping on each side. Up and down, and look out for the shoulder shrug, as I said from before. The next one we're going to doing is the rotation, where your hands are together and you're doing the turn from side to side. The most common error I see is people who over twist and tend to shrug and turn over, and sometimes they'll complain that there's pain in the shoulder. So when they do that, number one, make sure they don't overturn the stick. That's number one. And then number two, if they still feel like they're tight when they're turning, you can always have them drop the stick down a bit lower and do it from here. No difference, and it's still moving the shoulder. Next one we're going to do is shoulder circles. This is pretty tiring for seniors, I think, so they don't have to do that many repetitions. I'll just go ahead and show you the exercise. Going in circles. Same thing, when they start to get tired, they're going to start shrugging and maybe breath hold. So make sure they're breathing throughout the exercise, and they don't have to have it high. They can always have it down here and do small circles first, and as they get better, they can go a bit higher. The next exercise they'll be doing is the shoulder press. Just the stick on the chest, straight up into the ceiling. Not a lot of compensations here, mainly shoulder shrugging, that's one. And if you look from the side, some of them will actually lean back to try to lift up the stick. And that might cause lower back pain or put excessive stress on the back. So make sure you just check or have their back just on the chair so they don't cheat or compensate. Next exercise is the rotation. This is it right here. Once again, as they're turning towards that side, sometimes the shoulder does shrug when it's tight. So always look out for the shoulder shrug, as I said. The other thing that usually happens is when they are tight, they will tend to lean over with their bodies or start to shift a lot. Whenever you're doing any kind of exercise, just make sure that the body is always stable and turning around one point. Okay. Last exercise is the roll. There's actually two segments to the exercise. One is actually just a rowing down sequence, which is easy to do. And if you want, you can actually have them raise the stick up all the way to stretch out and then back down. Same thing, you're going to be looking for the shoulder shrug as they come up, and also make sure they pull all the way back as if they're rolling, and if they can't understand, have them out to the side to stretch out this part of the shoulder. Same thing, look out for the shoulder shrug, and that's it for the shoulder segment. This is the instructor segment for the seated leg exercises. I'll be going through all the compensations that you will see when the seniors are actually doing the leg exercises. So let's just go through each of the ones that I think are important. The first one we're going to do is the marching. In overall leg exercises, the main thing you want to look out for is posture. If you see them shifting a lot in the chair, they're definitely compensating, and they're probably doing it higher or harder than they should be. So that's the one thing to look out for, is posture. Now, we're going to just go through marching simply, just up and down. The only thing I look out for is to make sure they don't stamp their legs very hard when they're doing the marching. Make sure it's very controlled. And if you look from the side, sometimes if you see them moving a lot from the front, just check to see whether they're actually shifting a lot when they're actually doing the marching. If they do, just try to keep them either against the bench or tell them to see whether you can keep them stable. If they can't, it's better to have them just lean against the chair for stability. The next exercise we're going to do is the quad extensions. A very common exercise where you're just lifting the knee up and down. Same thing, you want to look for any excessive leaning from them. Usually they'll try to lift up very high. So just tell them lift a bit lower just before you see them leaning back. And that's probably as far as they need to go. As far as they can kick up without leaning back. Yeah? So just up and down. As they do the exercise, they should feel the quad firing and also the hamstring maybe stretching just a bit. The next exercise we're going to teach is the heel raises and toe raises together. Not a lot of compensations here. Main things to look out for is when they lift the heel up that they're not leaning back into the chair. And that's about it. The other ones are the ankle circles. When they're doing the ankle circles, make sure that they're not digging into the ground and trying to turn their ankle excessively. Some of the seniors will tend to be very aggressive some of them will barely move their ankle. You want them to be very sequenced and slow and try to make circles with their heels as much as they can. And that's it for the leg segments in sitting. This is the instructor segment for the dumbbell exercises. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the dumbbell exercises and show you all the errors that you will see when the seniors are doing the exercise. The first one is the bicep curl, where they're going up and down. The main thing to look out for is to make sure that their elbows don't come up. You want to keep their elbows to the side as they bring it up. And make sure their wrist does not bend or curl at the top. Just make sure the wrist is always in a very straight position as they come up and down. The next exercise is the abduction. So that's when the arm goes out to the side. The main thing to look out for is if they try to lift up too high, the shoulder will start to shrug. So make sure you stay very low and don't go too far up. Just like that, which is what you'll see. The other thing to look out for also is their wrist. If the weight is too heavy for them, they will lift up and sometimes the wrist will actually break. So just look out for those and also the shoulder shrugging. The next exercise is their internal and external rotation. This is when the elbows go in and out. Very simple. The only thing you need to look out for is to make sure that their elbows don't fly out to the side when they're doing it. Make sure the elbows stay in as they go out and in, out and in. The next one we have is punching. I'll just do it from the side. The common error is for them to lock their elbows right at the end. So just make sure that they keep their elbows slightly bent right at the end so that it does not put a lot of pressure into the elbow joint. As they come back, make sure they're pulling back as far as they can go without turning or shifting excessively. So it'll look something like this, slightly bent at the end, and have them pull back all the way, come forward slightly bent, and pull back all the way. The next exercise we're going to do is the shoulder shrug. This is pretty simple. They're just going up and down. The only thing I see is they will usually hold their breath when they lift. Just like that. So make sure, if you can, have them just breathe in and out as they're going up and down. There's no particular sequence. And just up and down, just like that. Okay. The next one they'll have is the shoulder circles. Not too many errors that happen here. Just make sure they don't lift up too high and make sure that their shoulders are not shrugging. We also have the wrist exercises next that they'll be doing. They'll be doing the turn in and turn out. The only things to look out for here is their wrist. So look carefully to make sure that their wrist does not drop or fall as they're actually turning the wrist in and out. And that'll be basically it. Elbows into the side, normal. And the last one they'll be doing is the wrist curls. Just up and down. I'll show you the side view. Not too many errors with this exercise. The only thing is you want to make sure that the wrist does not flop down quickly as they're doing it. Very slow, controlled motions. And also, don't let them lift their arms up to use their biceps to compensate. Just using the wrists, just going up and down. And that's it for the instructor section for the dumbbells. This is the instructor segment for the leg and lower bar exercises in standing. We don't really have the bars here set up, but I will go through the exercises with you one by one. In the homes, there will be the top bar and the bottom bar, and those will be the exercises we'll be talking about. The first exercise that you have is the marching, where you're lifting your hip to touch the top of the bar. Main compensations I see are people who lean back excessively to try to lift their hip up, and also those who kick the bottom of the bar with a very straight leg. You want to make sure that you stand them close to the bar so that they have to lift their hip up to use their toes to touch the top of the bar. Not slamming down on the bar, like they do. So just touching and coming down. Next exercise is the hamstring curl, which is this exercise, lifting up. Looks very simple, but most of the seniors will have their knees coming forward this way to use their hips to lift their knee up. So make sure you try to keep their knees in close together and make sure there's no gap. So just like this, instead of this. If they do it a bit, that's fine. As long as they're doing the exercises, better than nothing. Next thing is the heel raises. From the side view, it should look like this. Most of the seniors have difficulty lifting their toes up, so if they lift just a bit, that will be fine also. Main compensations I see is the sticking back of the buttocks as they're trying to lift, or excessively leaning back. So make sure you keep your body straight and lift the heel up. Next exercise is the heel raise. Very simple exercise where you're just lifting the heel up. Main things I see is people who hold on to the bar tend to pull in towards the wall as they're doing it. So make sure you feel like your head's going to hit the roof and feel like they're going straight up and coming down, straight up and coming down. Next exercise is the side step. They will hold on to the bar, stay close. Same as the marching, they will tend to try to use their leg to kick the lower side of the bar. So just make sure they lift over and go on top of the bar and touch it with the tip of their toes. Just like that. Another compensation would be side leaning. So if they will lean off to the side just a bit as they're doing it. So make sure that, same thing with all the other exercises, make sure their body is straight, no excessive movement from the body as they're doing it. Next exercise that we're going to do is the hip circles. Because the toes are pretty close to the ground, there will be a tendency for them to lean just a bit, and that will be fine, so that their feet can actually clear the floor. When they're doing the exercise, make sure their toes are up and not down. If they're down, they'll probably drag along the floor. Okay, just like this. Now, another thing with this exercise is you're actually working both legs. When you're actually turning the left and standing on the right by itself, that right actually feels really sore. So they might tell you that, and that's normal. When they're standing on the right side, doing the circles with the left, tell them to keep their knees soft. Don't lock the knee out, and because that puts a lot of excessive stress on the knee joint. Okay, so knee soft on the right, and do small circles. Okay, we're gonna do the stretch first, and then after that we'll get to the squat, which is kind of the most difficult part of the exercise to teach. Now, out of all the segments, this is the only stretch they do, and they'll do it right at the end. They will put the foot up on the bar. Just make sure not the mid of the foot gets on the bar. You want the tip of the foot. From there, you want to make sure that their knees are straight. A lot of them will bend and try to just press into the bar. Make sure their knees are straight. And the most important thing is make sure the heel comes down towards the floor. When you do that, you will feel the stretch in the calf. Not a lot of compensations there. Just look out to make sure that they're not too close to the bar, or else they won't be able to straighten out their knees. And to make sure that they're actually straightening out the knees and pushing the heel down into the floor. Now we're going to talk about the most difficult exercise, the squat, and we're going to go through it next. I get a lot of questions about the squat. It's one of the most difficult exercises to teach and the most difficult exercise to get correct. So today we're going to go through all the different things that I see that people do wrong, and I'll teach you how to correct them. Now, when you're doing a squat, the main thing that usually happens that I see is that somebody has their knees slightly past their toes. When they do that, you'll see their heel coming off. So they usually do a squat just like this. And most of them will end up complaining of knee pain when they're doing it. Now, whenever you do a squat, you want to make sure that the knees do not go past the toes. And in order to teach that, usually I will put a chair behind the senior as they're holding onto the bar, so that they can feel like they're sitting instead of squatting. So if I'm holding onto the bar, I want to feel like I'm sitting back into the chair instead of trying to bend my knee as much as I can. So tell them to sit into the chair without touching, come back up, and sit down, and come back up. Now, let's say they're doing that correctly and they still tell you, you know what, I still have knee pain. Now, there are certain other things that you can look at if you want to be a bit more particular. If you look from the front shot, when somebody is squatting, if you look at their feet, if they are very much turned out, as they squat, they will tend to knock their knees in together. When they do that, it will put excessive pressure on the kneecap. Now, what you can do is you can tell them to maybe keep their knees a bit straighter, and also as they come down into the squat, to not feel like their knees are coming in. Feel that they're straight and right over their second toe as they're coming down. Now, for most seniors, you don't have to be so particular, but if they do all three things correctly, meaning when they come down to the squat, the knees are not past the toes, they come down, then the knees are not knocked, the foot's not turned out, then they probably have a lot of wear in the knee. If that happens, make sure that when they do the squat, they do not go very deep. They can just do a very light squat just about there. Once the knee bends, the quads, hamstrings all fire, so they don't have to go very deep. And that's the end of the instructor section for the leg and low bar. Hi, this is an instructor segment for balance exercises. There's no one way to teach balance exercises, but today we're going to try to simplify it. There are 6 different ways that you can place the foot to make it more difficult to balance. We'll show you all those different ways today and to see how we can make it more difficult and more challenging for the seniors. Now, the main thing for balance exercises is as we decrease the base of support, it becomes more and more difficult for them to balance. Now, we're going to go through 6 of the different motions that they'll be doing and feet positions. First is feet together. Next will be feet one in front of the other. Feet directly behind the other. And also single leg. Now, as your senior walks into the clinic and you want to do balance exercises with them, you want to find the balance position that is just a bit difficult. Meaning when they're in the position, they are slightly shaky. That's the position that you want to start with. Have them hold for about 20 to 30 seconds and see whether they can improve and move on to the next section. Remember to not only do it with the right leg in front or left leg in front. Make sure you do both. If the senior comes in and he or her puts her left leg or right leg in front first, that is usually the stronger leg. So make sure you flip and do the opposite way. Now, after they go through all 6 positions that we have, different ways to make it more difficult are 1, to have them not hold on too tight to the bar. So have them relax the grip a bit more, or maybe to put about 2 fingers on to make it a bit more reliant on their legs to balance rather than their hands. The more they grip, the less they're going to use their legs. Another way is also to have them close their eyes, and that will have them have more proprioception to their feet, meaning they will feel their feet more when they're not using their eyes. So as they're doing the balance exercises, get them into position. They can still hold on, just have them close their eyes and do the exercises. Same thing, you want them just a bit wavy without falling over, and that's the section that you want to start with.